Hey, what's up, everybody? Hope we're having a wonderful Tuesday out there. And again, hopefully, we've had a wonderful start to the week. I know I haven't had a video out since Saturday, but if you did not catch that video, I did mention I was out of town on Sunday and yesterday, spending some time with family back in South Carolina, which was a ton of fun and had a blast. So, definitely, it was a nice couple of days of relaxation. But back to reality here in Charlotte, and that does include a very active week of weather ahead with what is shaping up to be a multi-day severe weather threat, as well as the potential for some snow going into this week and even some ice as well. So again, very active pattern ahead for a lot of folks. Now, I do want to apologize that this video is coming out so late today. I did not set an alarm today, and because of that, I did not wake up until really late. So I do apologize. I also went out to vote, which you might be able to see the little sticker here. So that took some time. And yeah, I also do apologize if the hat is a bit of a distraction, but spoiler alert, I did not brush my hair, so we're going to leave the hat on throughout the remainder of the video. With all of that said, though, I think we can go ahead and start talking about some weather, though, because again, we do have a good bit going on out there, and I do want you to stay up to date with the latest information that is happening here. Now, taking a look at satellite imagery, really, right now there's only one area of active weather, but it's really kind of, I guess, two areas now that I think about it. We've got this one little swirl kind of moving up through the northeast, but then we have a more robust swirl, if you will, which I'm sure swirl is not something my meteorology professor would probably like to hear me call it, but that's what we're going to call it anyway. We got two swirls on the map to watch out for today throughout much of the east, and that's going to bring a good amount of rainfall for a lot of folks, and even just a little bit of maybe some wintry weather. But overall speaking, rain is going to be the bigger deal out of these two systems. Now back west, we're going to have another trough kind of swing in, and that is going to lead to another robust storm system here going really starting Thursday through the rest of this week, and that could bring severe weather from Texas potentially as far east as the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida getting into this weekend. And again, I'll give you the latest information on that. But again, just know multiple rounds of kind of active weather throughout much of this week for many folks here. All right. Now, taking a look at our watches, warnings, advisories, and radar imagery, much quieter than we were looking at last video I made. And in fact, really, there's not much going on that is dangerous weather, I guess, east of the Mississippi. Now, obviously, it's raining, and that is going to cause problems for a lot of folks. And I'll tell you from firsthand experience, anytime a single drop of water falls from the sky, normally people's driving abilities also drop with it. So, again, watch out for that. But again, just a really rainy couple of days here east of the Mississippi. And we'll take a look at some of those rainfall totals towards the end of the video, and I'll just tell you, it's a lot of rain on the way this week. So for some of those areas that might be flood prone, definitely could be, dealing with some flooding issues by the time all is said and done this week. But again, as of right now, nothing too dangerous, I guess, out there. Now back west, we do still have some winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories. Again, still seeing some of that snow working on through the Rocky Mountains, and just going to let you know now, I'm not going to talk too much about that in today's video. I will briefly mention it kind of in the middle of the video, but most of this video is going to be focused on the severe weather and snowy conditions on the way to the east with these multiple storm systems. All right, so I think the best way to kind of go about this is let's start by talking about the overall setup of what we're looking at out there. And this is a map I haven't shown in a while, but it's our 500 millibar height relative vorticity, if I could say the word. So what this map is kind of just going to show us is where do we have spin in the atmosphere, and thus where is that spin kind of leading to more favorable conditions for maybe some severe weather and development of low pressure. Well, you'll notice right now, again, we do have a good amount of vorticity kind of available here in the eastern half of the country. Kind of two pockets, again, one with that spin that's kind of moving in off of the Atlantic, but also a more kind of robust wave here, and kind of you can even see it with some troughing showing up here on your map, or a trough axis I kind of have drawn out there for you. That, again, is leading to some pretty big areas of lift in the atmosphere, and thus some precipitation forming for, again, a lot of folks here. Now, as we go through the next couple of days, that area of spin or that lift will slowly work off towards the north and east and bring some impactful weather. But watch what happens by the time we get into Thursday and Friday here. A much more pronounced area of troughing here. As you'll notice, kind of that big kink or that elongation of that low pressure here. And this trough axis very positively tilted here. Moving into the Four Corners region here, again going Thursday into Friday. What that likely is going to lead to is the formation of some low pressure here over the Great Plains with this kind of L drawn on your map, and that is going to lead to a return of warm air advection out of the south and enough wind shear over that warm air advection that, again, we're going to be dealing with some severe weather prospects here for a lot of folks here throughout this week. And eventually what happens is that trough axis continues to work eastbound and eventually merges even with a northern stream piece of energy going into this weekend and even into the start of next week. And that's going to lead to likely a pretty impactful March winter storm here through sections of the Northeast. Now, not everybody, probably not I-95 corridor, but I think a lot of folks up here into upstate New York, maybe even down into the Adirondacks, Catskills, Vermont, New Hampshire, portions of Massachusetts and Maine, again, a good thumping of snow and ice are going to be on the table here throughout the next 7 to 10 days, again, for a lot of folks up in that part of the country. And that'll also likely bring a cool down back to some cooler conditions here going towards maybe not the middle of the month, but the second half of the first half of the month, I guess is how I'll describe that. But again, we'll take a more in-depth look at temperatures here later on. Now, that big-time severe weather threat is, again, later in the week, but we do still have some smaller threats for severe weather today. In fact, we've got a marginal risk for some strong storms through East Texas, Arkansas, into Louisiana and Mississippi, and then also down into the southern half of Florida, kind of the I-4 corridor southbound all the way towards the Keys. Could definitely see some strong storms today. And tomorrow, another threat for some strong storms down here into the southern part of Florida, specifically the East Coast, kind of Cape Canaveral southbound there, and even just south of Jacksonville down the I-95 corridor, but also some East Coast cities like Fort Myers could see some stronger storms tomorrow, and then even into the Lake Okeechobee area. Again, definitely watching out for that. Now, also for our Wednesday, we get our first marginal risk back out here towards Texas. This, again, could lead to some strong storms forming, and we'll definitely watch that, as that's kind of the start of our overall bigger storm system, again, kind of that we mentioned there early on. Now let's start off here talking about these first rounds of rain that we're currently seeing out there and kind of giving you an overall idea of where they're at and where they're going. Well, again, this afternoon, you'll notice some very just kind of rainy conditions, and this is getting into tonight about the time the sun is setting, but just widespread moderate to heavy rainfall from Birmingham, Atlanta, up through Nashville, Louisville, and then also up into the Northeast from Boston, Hartford, Providence, up into Montpelier, if you will, and into Bangor, Maine. Could see some rain out of this. Again, for a lot of folks here overnight tonight, definitely, again, those rain chances increasing. Now, by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning, and I'll just say overnight tonight, if you like sleeping with rain, you're going to have a wonderful night in the upstate of South Carolina, down through the Midlands, from Columbia back towards Aiken, up through Greenville, Spartanburg, Asheville, Knoxville. Bristol could even see some really good soaking rain overnight tonight. And again, by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning for that Wednesday morning commute, just very widespread heavy rainfall through much of the Carolinas. Specifically, I think the I-77 corridor from Columbia up through Charlotte. They're kind of with the Great Falls area in between, and Richburg, South Carolina, could see some rain out of that. Back over towards Florence, down through Charleston, and again, just surrounding areas seeing some pretty heavy rain tomorrow morning. Now, also going to see some rain through the Ohio River Valley. If you're watching in Pikeville, Kentucky area, back again down towards Knoxville, Chattanooga, and up into that kind of border counties of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. Definitely some rainy conditions tomorrow morning, and that continues into tomorrow afternoon. Now, as we get into tomorrow afternoon, you'll notice some of these storms could get kind of strong here off the coast of the Carolinas down into the Gulf Stream. And also back down again into Florida, you'll notice that line of pretty strong storms stretching pretty far southbound. And that's why we have that risk for strong storms into the Florida Peninsula tomorrow. Definitely need to watch out for that. Again, could lead to some feisty storms with some strong straight line winds. Now, the bigger story tomorrow, though, is just how rainy it's going to be. From the I-95 corridor, this is about 7 o'clock tomorrow evening, from Boston and Bangor, Maine, all the way down through D.C., Richmond, just a big old shield of rainfall. And in fact, we even could see some flash flooding concerns tomorrow here from Long Island up into Massachusetts. Definitely got to watch that area. We're going to have a lot of onshore flow with this storm system kind of overlapping and almost even a fire hose of moisture. You'll even see that showing up on your map. Look at this big shield or line of rain that's kind of working northbound. Again, that's indicative of some pretty strong offshore flow, bringing in that precipitation. And again, like I said, flooding could become a concern there through parts of the I-95 corridor. Now, what is also going to become a concern here overnight Wednesday into our early Thursday morning hours is look at this blue showing up on your map here. We were talking about this a couple days ago. It looked like this could have been a pretty big ice storm. Well, now it's looking like more of just a snowstorm and for a smaller area up here into north central Maine. And I mentioned that in the video as models were all over the place and we'd have a better idea by the time Tuesday rolled around. And sure enough, I think we definitely do here. And as I mentioned, starting overnight Wednesday into Thursday, some snow breaking out through central Maine, even back over towards the portions of Atlanta Atlantic Canada, just north of Nova Scotia here, into New Brunswick and Newfoundland. Could also see some snow, but specifically New Brunswick here, I think definitely seeing some snow out of this one. And again, that continues into the overnight hours of Wednesday, and by the time we're waking up Thursday morning, we've got some pretty heavy snowfall in here. Again, through this kind of strip of Maine and up into Atlantic Canada. I know it kind of goes off the map a little bit here, but just know these areas could definitely see some snow breaking out here, and even into the mountains of New Hampshire seeing some snow. Now, south of there, along the immediate coastline of Maine, back towards Boston and even into southern Nova Scotia, just some good old-fashioned heavy rain out of this, not too much on the snowy side, and that rain could continue well into our Thursday afternoon here. And as far as this model goes, again, still dealing with some of that precipitation left over during the evening hours of Thursday as well. Again, definitely could deal with some of those wet conditions. Now, at the same time here, again, getting into the early morning hours of Friday, you'll notice that this kind of next storm system is slowly beginning to take shape, out west, and that'll be kind of the next story maker that we talk about. Now, snowfall totals, again, I think up here through north and central Maine, a good chunk of snow on the way, maybe a good 3 to 5 inches for a lot of folks, but even some flurries could try to break containment on the backside and get down here into portions of Boston and into New Hampshire, Vermont, and even into coastal Maine on the backside, really probably during the evening hours of Thursday and overnight Thursday. But really, the real accumulations will be up here into north central Maine, and I'll even pull up for our friends in Canada, which I promise I'm not trying to forget about you. Let me find a map here for you folks. Actually, need to find a different model, sorry. Give me 1 second here. I know we're doing this on the fly. All right, Eastern Canada, let's see. This is from our NAM model, and this should do a pretty good job at showing us. Now, these totals are very overdone, and I really cannot actually overestimate how overdone they are, so let's change it to this map. There we go. And again, I'm sure this is probably a little hard to see, but just know, again, even into this section of Eastern Canada, could see a good maybe 6 to 8 centimeters of snowfall before all is said and done here. And again, I know it's kind of small on your map, but if you're watching there, definitely know some snow on the way for you folks as well. All right, now ice, this is our blend of models. You'll notice on the last map I showed you, not much was showing up, but I do think we could definitely see a band of icing here as some of that cold air gets trapped at the surface, specifically into, let me pick a different color so you can see it easier here, but specifically into central and southern Maine as well as northern New Hampshire. I think these totals are probably overdone a little bit, but just know it's not going to be a clean line from rain to snow. There definitely will be some icing in between, and should that persist long enough, we could see a good 1/10 of an inch, maybe isolated spots getting up to 2/10 of an inch, which is definitely enough to cause some problems here into these areas. So if you're watching up in New Hampshire or Maine, definitely let me know what you see during this storm system, and tell me if you're getting any ice out of it. Now, obviously you're not yet, but by the time we get there, definitely let me know in the comments, or you can shoot me an email with the email in the description, or there's plenty of different ways to find me through social media. So I'd love to hear your reports by the time the storm is getting going. All right, now that's just the first storm system. As I mentioned, another one on the way, and this one likely even more robust than the first one. And here we go, 3 days from now. Let's do the math on that. That would be Thursday afternoon here. The threat for some severe weather beginning to crank up here along the Red River Valley through Oklahoma, back down towards Dallas, Fort Worth, and into the heart of Texas. Could be bringing some severe weather here with that next, again, trough ejection out of the Rockies. And this does include the threat for tornadoes. Don't let your guard down. Definitely going to be possible out in this part of the country during this time frame. Now, that will not be the only day that we have some severe weather concerns. Let me move this ahead. Sorry, this is on the wrong day. Here we go. So day 4, again, this is getting into Friday at this point. We also once again have the threat for some strong to severe storms. This time, though, getting down into the Gulf states from kind of Waco, Texas, down through Alexandria, Shreveport, Baton Rouge, Jackson, Mississippi, and even into Mobile, Alabama. Could be seeing some strong storms here for our Friday afternoon. But again, I'll tell you, the models are really kind of struggling with their agreement right now. So knowing exact extents of these impacts are still going to be tough to really pin down right now. But just know, definitely some strong storms on the way here, and we'll definitely need to watch out for that. All right, so kind of the next section of this video, I'm going to show you a couple different model runs from our European, our GFS, show you who's going to see rain when, who could be seeing severe weather when. Then we're going to talk about snowfall totals out of this storm system, and then I'll leave you with rainfall totals and a quick look at temperatures here throughout the next couple of weeks, at least a general idea of what it's looking like. So Here we go, Thursday morning. Here's that low pressure that I was talking about now developing out over Texas and Oklahoma. This same low pressure likely to bring some of those stronger storms here, including the threat for some severe weather during Thursday afternoon and into our Friday. So again, Thursday afternoon is whenever the Storm Prediction Center has this outlined area through Texas and Oklahoma, and for reasons that you'd probably be able to understand. Again, as we've got this low pressure bringing in that wind energy, also that Gulf instability kind of surging northward, and again, could see some strong storms out of that. Now to the north here, just some good old-fashioned rain through through Kansas and Missouri, but also some snow here going to try to break out to the north of there, and especially back into the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. Now, as we get even into Friday afternoon, you'll notice the storm system slowly works eastbound. We've got now a pretty sharp gradient between cold and warm air. To the south of this orange line, we've got that warm Gulf air. To the north, we've got Canadian air kind of trying to funnel in, and that clashing of air masses, again, going to lead to some strong storms once again Friday afternoon here through Texas, Louisiana, down into Mississippi, Alabama, and even into potentially the Florida Panhandle during our Friday afternoon. Now that continues even into the overnight Friday, and again, I don't know if I mentioned this. This is the European model. I should have probably stated that at the beginning if you didn't see that at the top right of your screen. But again, that whole storm system continues to slowly work eastbound overnight Friday, and by the time we're getting into Saturday morning, again, a lot of rain falling. On the north side here, just some good old-fashioned, spring rain through through the Ozarks, I'll just say, down through the Ohio River Valley. But to the south, again, enough instability possible that we could be dealing with some strong storms Saturday morning through Saturday afternoon through the Gulf states and maybe even up into the Carolinas potentially, as again, we're dealing with just good old-fashioned rain to the north. Now, Saturday afternoon into evening, you'll notice this low pressure slowly getting stronger, continuing to work up the Ohio River Valley, and eventually on the backside, notice these blue isobars. This is cold air that is now trying to wrap on into our storm system as we're kind of getting some phasing with some northern branch energy and some southern branch energy. And eventually what happens is we get a lot of rain to work into the northeast, but on the backside, this storm system occludes that cold air, works through, and now we've got some big time snow breaking out into the interior northeast this weekend from overnight Saturday into Sunday afternoon through upstate New York, through Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, seeing some big time snow out of this as well. And a pretty good low pressure as well, 992 millibars, definitely enough to cause some wind energy there. And again, that snow could be blowing. And on the backside, that big trough of cold air works on in, and we likely get some lake effect snow and maybe even some northwest flow snow into the mountains of West Virginia, throughout early next week through the Monday timeframe before finally that works on out of here, getting into next Tuesday and Wednesday. All right, that was the European model, GFS model, pretty similar. Again, starting here Thursday afternoon, there's that storm threat through Texas and Oklahoma with, again, just some good old-fashioned rain to the north of there. And the storm progresses pretty similarly here. It slowly works eastbound, bringing that continual severe weather threat through our Friday afternoon into the Gulf states. You'll notice down here with, again, just some good old-fashioned rain to the north, maybe a little bit more robust with that northern shield of rain than the European model was. Again, though, definitely going to watch that here and watch some of those rain chances increase before eventually we get into Saturday afternoon, and the GFS, again, pretty similar. Low pressure along the Ohio River Valley, bringing some rain, maybe some storms down through the Carolinas and south through the Florida Panhandle here on Saturday afternoon. Could be strong to severe maybe. But again, setting the stage the same general way here. Here comes that cold air on the backside funneling into our low pressure, cooling things down pretty quickly here. And again, crashing the column here, and we're getting some pretty big snow on the backside here into eastern Canada, into kind of Ontario, Quebec, and then into portions of the northeastern United States through New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, and even into Maine as well. And then much like the European model, again, that continues, but I'll note here, the GFS really strengthens this low pressure, and this is very possible. We could get a low pressure below 980 millibars. You'll notice all of this cold air funneling in on the backside, and this warm air still on the front side here. That is going to form a very tight pressure gradient here, and again, could lead to some pretty strong winds here. And sorry, it sounds like a plane just flew over, which that'll happen in Charlotte from time to time. But either way, again, a pretty impactful storm here nonetheless for the Northeast, showing up on both of our global models. So definitely need to watch out for that. All right, snowfall totals here. We'll start down where the storm's going to start, and again, could see some pretty good snow into the Rockies of Colorado. Would not be surprised to see some, totals here get up past a foot or two of snow. Definitely going to be pretty possible again in those higher terrains. with lower totals once you actually get out of the mountains and you get up towards Nebraska, Kansas, and then into the Texas and Oklahoma Panhandle. A couple inches of snow definitely likely here, but overall speaking, nothing too a blockbuster here with this. But again, some snow going to fall here through Nebraska and Kansas, and then even up into Iowa. Now getting into the northern Great Plains, higher snowfall totals along the Canadian and American border here, or United States border, I guess is probably the more proper way to say it, from kind of Twin Falls all the way over towards really northern North Dakota here. We're a good couple of inches of snow on the way for you folks. Everyone else in the northern Great Plains here, though, I think you do see some sort of snowflakes out of this storm system, but really just kind of scattered snow showers. So maybe a dusting, isolated spots could pick up a couple inches for sure, but overall nothing too blockbuster out of this storm system. Getting on into the Midwest here, again, I do think we could get some pretty good northwest kind of lake effect snow here out of the UP of Michigan, even into the northern portions of the Michigan itself, which I forgot. I had a comment telling me what people actually call it. The mitten, I think, was what CJ said, if I remember. So CJ, if you're watching this, yeah, I'm going to call it the mitten. So the mitten here, again, the northern peninsula or northern part of the mitten of Michigan. It's kind of fun to say. Could again see a quick couple inches of snow out of this with that northwest flow snow on the backside here, and that lake effect snow as well. Now, where the real winners will be, I'll just tell you right now, is going to be in the Northeast. Now, this map is going to change. I'll tell you ahead of time, but with the latest guidance that we have, I think the best chance of seeing significant snowfall totals likely going to be up through Maine, into northern New York State, and then into Vermont and New Hampshire, where half a foot to a foot of snowfall is not out of the question, and some of these totals could even get down into the higher terrains of Massachusetts here. You'll notice kind of some of those totals getting kind of far south there. And then also even back into the Catskills and the Finger Lakes, and even back into Erie and Buffalo could see some good snow out of the storm system as well. But again, I think the real winners are going to be the higher elevations of Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire. Definitely going to see some pretty impressive snowfall totals out of that storm system. Now, rainfall, again, this is going to be a pretty big impact as well. This is through the next week, and just about everyone here from the Ohio River Valley up through the Northeast and back into the Southeast are going to see at least 1 to 2 inches of rain, but isolated spots down here into the Carolinas, specifically the Western Carolinas, down into the Atlanta and Birmingham area. 4 inches of rain is not out of the question, maybe even half a foot of rain in isolated spots before all is said and done over the next week, but really most of it is falling now through this Sunday. And same story in the Northeast here, into coastal Massachusetts, into southeastern New England, coastal Maine. Again, a good 4 to 6 inches of rain is not out of the question, now through kind of the end of this week and even into the start of next week. So again, definitely need to watch that, and some pretty impressive rainfall totals nonetheless. All right, temperatures. Well, it's been really warm out there. It's felt like spring for the past couple of days. That continues really for a lot of folks. This is even getting into Thursday afternoon, well above average temperatures in the east. But notice by the time we're getting into this weekend, here comes a cold front. Again, still warm for most folks in the east, but some of that blue now showing up on your map behind that storm system that kind of forms during the middle of the week, and that slowly works eastbound. And by the time we're starting next week, we're back to below average temperatures through much of the East Coast. So, this isn't too uncommon to see this time of year, but definitely some fluctuations in the temperatures here. But just know, now through the rest of this week should be above average for most folks before we get a slight cool down into the early part of next week. Now, taking a look at the longer range pattern here in the temperature department, note that some of these warmer temperatures are going to return, definitely I think a week or so out from now, but after that there are some signs in the models here that towards the middle of March, more prolonged cool downs could be on the way, and this is getting towards the middle and end of the month. You'll notice just about everyone here east of the Rockies, even up into Canada, is below average here with the temperatures. That's something we're going to need to watch. Could see, again, a return back towards the cold side of things during the middle and end of the month. And, should we get an active low pressure track with that, could once again see a return to some snowy conditions for some folks here throughout much of the country. And again, I'll get plenty of time to check that out. And now we just got to kind of get through these first storm systems that are knocking on the door right now and bringing some impactful weather. Alrighty, so talked about a lot today, got through a lot, hopefully you found some use in it. If you did, definitely like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments. But until next time, hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you then.